everybody, Doug here. Welcome back to yet another board game channel where we will be starting yet another board game playthrough. Yes, and we're going to delve into the still extremely new Fallout by Fantasy Flight Games, based on the popular video game series of the same name, which takes place in a alternate timeline post-apocalyptic wasteland. It does a weirdly good job of simulating a lot of the stuff from a video game. Yeah, this is still pretty new. Not going to do like a complete rules thing right away or anything. We're just going to go over it as we discover things. I'll cover a lot of it during setup because, well, you kind of can't avoid that. I am going to be playing the scenario. I've played this a few times already. I've made some mistakes in basic gameplay, but I think I have I think I get it now. I know where I made my mistakes. So yeah, I played a couple of it. Comes with 4 scenarios. I'm going to be playing one that I have not done yet, so it's going to be all very the actual storyline will be very will be new to me. I'm going to be doing the Pitt, which was some expansion, some DLC for Fallout 3, which took place in post-apocalyptic Pittsburgh, slavers versus slaves. We'll see once we set up the story cards. It's very, yes, this is very story heavy, so be warned about spoilers. On the other hand, it branches off rather a lot when you do the same scenarios, so it's not a horrible big deal if you see a few things. So yeah, we're going to go over a little bit of setup, and we'll cover some stuff as we go. Yeah, first thing we will do is, yeah, look at our scenario and the way we've set up the board here. Okay, well, before we look at it all, what are we trying to accomplish? Well, each player, in our case just one, playing this solo, as one can, is trying to gather a certain amount of influence, and you get influence from it's called these agenda cards. So you can see each card is worth one influence point, and they all potentially have a couple of different ways of getting bonus influence as well. We're going to start off with one of these and hopefully acquire more. For a one-player game, it's going to be, we need to get 11 to win. The way that we can not win is there are 2 rival factions in a game. They will each start at the top of this influence track, and if either one of them reaches this bottom, the game wins, or that particular faction of the game wins. Either way, we lose. It is possible to actually win at the same time as the game, although I don't know how common or likely that actually is. Okay, so as you can see, we've got, yeah, this shows us how to set up the map. We've got some default exposed tiles: the haven, the mill, the bridge, and the crossroads camp. We have randomized these tiles and put them out. No idea what's under which ones. Sort out our tokens. Yes, we're creating, yes, we have a couple of encounter decks. We have ruins encounters, and I can't think of the word. Settlement, that's the word I'm trying to think of. Settlement encounters. And we can go with these cards depending on numbers, the type of space that we're on. There are a few default ones for each type. They're the stars. More cards potentially, and well, almost certainly will be added to these decks to make us encounter more things. So yeah, there's those. We'll put those aside and we'll start encountering those. Got a few other decks. We'll go over them as they come up. There's unique stuff, perks, loot, and assets. One thing we do need to do as part of the setup is reveal 4 of these as a potential store. It's actually kind of hard to buy things in this game. You can only do it basically if a card tells you, and even then you can only perform the action a certain number of times depending on where you are. So we are going to reveal. So up for grabs, we can possibly get a lab coat, item apparel. We'll see how inventory stuff works eventually. It would cost us 6 caps. It would block 1 hit, so it's 1 armor. During a test that uses intelligence, we add a hit, and we'll see how that all works. Drug items do not count against your inventory limit, because yes, for non-equipped items you can only carry 3. So it looks like drugs won't count if you have a lab coat. Also available, the sniper rifle. Costs 10. We'll go over what all these what these symbols mean as things come up. Oh, potentially a companion, Nick Valentine. He will only join us if we have the charisma trait. We'll see if we can get that at some point. You exhaust companions, and a lot of items as well. Exhaust to choose an enemy within 2 spaces of you. Move that enemy 1 space in any direction. And yeah, there are conditions for keeping companions when they unexhaust. Again, we'll cover it if it comes up. Oh, and some jet, which is the cheapest item we've got available at 4 during a test or fight. Exhaust this to change 1 die result to a different face. Oh, you get to choose it. But then we have to perform another test and possibly become addicted. Addicted is bad. Yes, we are now going to look over, we're going to choose a survivor and set them up. Okay. Here we go. I have decided I'm playing with a character that I haven't personally played with, although people I have played with have used it. The Super Mutant. There are 5 possible characters to be. Going with Super Mutant, because why not? During setup, become a Super Mutant. That's a status token that we can have. See, that'll lock into there. Just to... I don't know if there's a way to lose that status. It doesn't seem possible to me. It could be that it's possible for non-mutant people to become super mutants, I suppose. Yes, place this card in your play area. It doesn't count towards your inventory. Yeah, even though it's a card, it doesn't count towards your card limit. For each bit of radiation that I suffer, I will gain an experience point. We'll see how experience works and all. Each character comes with 1 of these little tokens with their image on it, which means, yes, the Super Mutant starts with strength. Like the video games, there are a number of stats. Everybody in the game is, it's probably hard to see because they're not filled in, special: strength, perception, endurance, charisma, intelligence, agility, and luck. So by default, the Super Mutant always starts with luck. And everybody gets to choose 1 more random one to start with. If it's a double, we put it back. Nope, but it's not. So this is a strong and perceptive Super Mutant. You can see we're going to start at HP of 16. Our radiation level is 0. And our experience is currently 0. As things happen, we'll see how the experience track works and the leveling up. Alright, so now, yes, we will give ourselves an agenda. So we start off with one influence point no matter what, and we have an additional point, influence point, if we happen to have 3 or more drugs on us. Of course, if we go down past 3 drugs, that'll go away. Plus, another point if we happen to be well rested. That's another potential status effect, which will come into effect at some point because it involves resting, and boy, I'm going to want to rest. More of those cards could turn up, hopefully, because, well, they better, because it's the only way we're going to win the game. Right, that is that. Now, the last thing we're going to do for the actual setup is finish off the scenario setup, and yeah, resolve the initial effects, and then we can get into it and learn a little bit more about how this goes. Okay, well, first of all, let's place our figure. As you can see, there's our big old super mutant, nicely detailed, and with a huge weapon that we don't actually really get to start with. But yeah, to start with, we get to put our figure on any space on the Crossroads Camp tile to begin with. Next thing we've got to do is, there are some symbols on these 3 tiles up here. Let's just grab one so you can see it better. See that there? That matches a token, or a symbol rather, on these tokens. You can see these are all the robot enemies. I'll just shuffle that once. And one of these will spawn on that spot. It's going to be a level 3 sentry bot. We'll see what all the numbers mean and everything once we when we actually encounter one. So that one is hanging out on the Haven space. On the bridge space, we have one of these. It's humanoid enemies, a level 1 looter. Of course, they're miles away right now, so it's not much of an issue, whatever they are. And then the mill, has one of these tokens. They're just like horrible hulking beasts for the most part, and it's a death claw, which, yeah, infests the Fallout games and just way too much trouble to deal with. Anyway, we will see what happens when we encounter some of those. Now, as the remaining part of the setup for the pit, we will stage card 056. We'll see that momentarily. We'll get that out. Stage just means put it on the table so everybody can see it and everybody has access to that card. We will also place a shield token on Haven and a star token on the mill. So a shield on Haven. I think it should go on the actual spot, and a star on the mill. And those represent these 2 possible adversaries. The stars are rebel slaves, worked to death in the steel mills of the pit. The slaves are rising up. See, there's all kinds of stats there. Again, we'll go over it all if we have to. Slavers, led by the raider boss Ashur. The slavers lord over the population of the pit, while they claim to engineer a cure for the rampant sickness. And he's got a very odd stat. He's got a Y on it. Basically, when you see that Y, you have to look and see where the shield token is on here. And you can see it starts off, when it's in these first 2 tokens, the Y equals 1. So it's just a level 1 guy. Oh, we are going to put these 2 tokens on the first slot of that track, and really hope they don't get to the end before we get 11 influence. Oh yes, influence. One thing I should have pointed out is normally this is hidden, so no other players can see what your card is. It doesn't matter in our case, as we are the only player. Sometimes you do want to reveal some of these cards. If one of those turns up, we will see. Right, the other thing we needed to do was stage card 56. This is basically our story and encounter deck. So we're going to take out card 56 and stage it, as they say. This we get to see everything on it, so we know what our potential goals are. Into the pit. You happen upon a man fleeing this new wasteland. Please, he says, if you see my friends, tell them I made it, and that there's a way out. And whatever you do, don't let the slavers know I've come this way. So there are a couple of things we can try to accomplish, one or the other. We can either report the escaped slave to the slavers, so we can basically take a quest action, just use one of our actions at any settlement, and if we do that, the slavers will gain 1 influence. We will place a slaver in our space, we'll get 2 bits of loot, we'll stage a couple more cards, and then we will trash this one. Basically, this will leave the game for the rest of this game. The other thing we can do is inform the man's friends. Again, we just do a quest action at any ruin space. The slaves will get, basically it'll be almost exactly the same, except the slaves replace the slavers, and we will stage a slightly different card. So we can do one of those as we please once we're in a spot where we are able to do so. All right, I believe that is all we need to do for the setup. So I think we'll do like 2 or 3 turns, because especially at first the turns do not take very long because there's not much to interact with down here. So yeah, we are going to start. See what our super mutant decides to do first. Alright, so a round consists of each player doing 2 actions. Most of them you can do more than once if you choose to. You can do the same one twice. Then we will draw an agenda card. Basically the game will have its turn. We'll see that shortly, because the first turn is not going to take very long. What we can choose to do is move, gain 2 movement points to move a figure, and yeah, we'll see how the different types of spaces work. We can explore by revealing an adjacent face-down map tile. We can fight an enemy on our space, if they haven't already attacked us anyway. Once per turn, we can draw and resolve an encounter card matching the icon on our space, if there are no enemies. We can do one of those quest actions, like we saw on Into the Pit, again if no enemy is present. And also, if no enemy is present, we can camp, wherein we will recover HP, unexhaust any cards we have exhausted, become well rested, and if we were playing with anybody else, we could trade with the other survivors. When you're playing with more than one person, you don't go after each other. There's no player-on-player combat. You just, try to gain advantages and screw each other over as subtly as you can. Well, clearly the only thing we can do as our first action is do some exploring. So as this space is touching these 2 tiles, we can explore either one of them. If we wanted to, we could explore them both this turn, and depending on what we turn up, we may do so. Yeah, here we have uncovered the space that has Highway 74. And you can see on it we've got, one space per movement point if we wanted to move. Going through a green spot increases our radiation, which is generally not good, although the super mutant will get experience for it, so that's good. Okay, little interruption. I'm back. Right. Green spaces, passing through them will give you radiation damage. Again, in our case, it's not 100% bad for the super mutant because he'll get some experience. Those red spaces means they each take 2 movement points to get through. So yeah, it's basically just difficult terrain. So, for our second action, well, we could reveal another tile here, or I think we're actually going to go ahead and move over to the Highway 74 ruins. So yeah, second action will be moving 2 points. We're actually going to, I'll do it at the very least just so you can see what happens when you pass 1, 2 through that irradiated space. So we start at 0 radiation. We pass through 1 radiated spot, so the radiation will actually go up to 1. If both our hit points and our radiation would reach the same point, we die, have to respawn, start over from the beginning, possibly lose some stuff. Now, being the super mutant, we actually got an experience point for passing through that radiation. So we're going to take our XP marker and move it up to the next letter we got. If I had gotten 2, I would have gone 1, 2, obviously. If I'd gotten 3, I would have gone 1, 2. This is all empty, so we skip it. 3, down around to the beginning again, at which point I would level up. We'll see what happens when that takes place, as it inevitably will. Alright, back to the board. Alright, so that is 2 actions, which ends the player's go. Now what happens is the game gets its turn. We reveal the top agenda card, and we see if anything moves here. So, the shield, in this case the slavers, and any super mutants besides our character will move 1 space towards the nearest character, who of course is us. We don't have any super mutants on the board yet, so we only have to worry about the slavers. We'll just zoom out so we can see how they move. I've only got the 1 shield way up there, so it's just going to move 1 space and start crawling all the way down towards us because we're quite far away in this setup. Now when you get through all of these agenda cards, when you flip the last one over for critter movement, at that point the 2 factions, well, if you're playing with more than 1 player, they will both go up 1. If you're playing solo, as I am, only the one that is furthest behind will go up 1, unless they're tied, as they currently are, and they would both go up 1. But that's a ways off. We have a few more cards to go through before that becomes a thing. And I think we'll just leave it at that 1 turn. Oh, I just realized something I forgot to point out earlier. We did start with 3 caps, which is the money in the game. There's no more money, we just use bottle caps. Right, I think my battery's getting a little low, so we'll just leave it with the setup and the 1 turn, and we'll pick it up again next time. And I think we're going to try to resolve something on the Into the Pit card. So, hope you join me then. Thanks very much for watching. Thanks everybody who subscribes to the channel. Thanks very much for liking the videos, both on YouTube and Board Game Geek. I appreciate it. And I will see you next time for yet another episode of Fallout: The Pit.